Wait. Oops. Okay. Why is escape not working? This is not good. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, that's fine. All right. Jody, can you record?
Yes, we are recording.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 6th Hackschool workshop. Today, we will be learning about responsive design and accessibility. So this is how to make your website look better for whatever use there is, whatever users there are. My name is Christy, and yeah, really excited to teach this workshop. It's the first time we've ever done it for Hackschool. So first we have the link to the slides as well as the README. So the README will have all the code that we'll be using for this workshop. There's actually not too much code, so don't need to worry about that too much. And then I have the slides link here. Great. And then this is the membership portal attendance code. Where is the example website? Or from the chat, where's the example website we made?
You might be talking about the one that CL made.
There should be,
oh, okay.
It should be fairly obvious. Like if it's a good question. Like
yeah, could one of the mentors find the CL example website? And I guess I'll type in the chat, the membership portal. Cool, yeah. If that wasn't the right website, you can just ask again in the chat. All right, Tim.
Hello. It is 3 days until our like big kind of event, which is Bruin Quest. Just for those who may not know, it's like this cross-committee collaboration between Cyber ICPC and Hack. Yeah, so if you guys this weekend are feeling like kind of coming by and just doing some puzzles, you know, there's like creative ones, and then there's like some ones that are very intellectually challenging. I've done some of them, and some of them are quite satisfying to do. It is November 21st, starting at 10 a.m. to November 22nd. And you can kind of get all the information by joining our Discord. So yeah, I know a lot of people have midterms and stuff like that. But you know, if you maybe got your week 7 midterm done and want to do something fun for like maybe even just a subset of this time, feel free to just swing by, even if it's for like a little bit of time. And you could win prizes. So yeah. I'll give it back to you, Christy. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, really excited for Bruin Quest.
All right, yeah, and then for all the Bloom fellows that are attending right now, we want to, if you haven't seen already, we made a big announcement on Discord about starting this week. The core curriculum is over for both dev and design, so you should have everything you need to build your own sites and design your own sites. So we really encourage you to start working on your projects, or at least thinking about ideas if you haven't already. We are also trying to help you guys out with this process, so we're holding a work session this Friday at 4 p.m. That's November 20th Pacific time. And the other work session time slots are also in the Discord. So please check Discord if you haven't already.
Yeah, and also to clarify, like this is not the last Hackschool session. This is our last like core Hackschool session. All the information you need to build your website should already be taught, but we will have some advanced workshops in the coming weeks at the same time. And again, please don't be afraid to ask questions at any point. Just either drop them in the chat or like ask if we need to repeat anything. Definitely open to all of that. It's always confusing, like learning for the first time. So what we'll be learning today, responsive design. So this means responsive to different screen sizes. Okay, I forgot. And then we'll be using media queries to create these mobile-friendly websites. In addition, we'll be talking about accessible design, particularly colorblind accessibility and screen reader accessibility. So first, what does responsive design mean? Like quote from MDN, it is a set of practices that allows web pages to alter their layout and appearance to suit different screen widths, as well as resolutions. So far, like as we've been learning HTML and CSS, we've mostly just been designing the website for a desktop screen, which makes a lot of sense because we're developing on a desktop screen. So like you just want to scroll over and see what the website looks like on your desktop. However, when you're building a website for a wide audience, it's really important to keep in mind mobile users. So according to Pew Research, 1 in 5 American adults are smartphone-only internet users. So they wouldn't even be able to access a nice website if you only design for desktop. And it's projected by 2025 that 3 in 4 people will use only mobile for internet. So something you might hear is mobile first design. And this means that you don't even design your website for desktop initially. You just come out with a mobile design and then adapt your mobile design to the desktop later on. And nowadays, it is pretty difficult to find a website that doesn't have a mobile-friendly design. Like even CCLE has a mobile-friendly design. So if you want your website to be at least as good as CCLE, you got to have a mobile version too. So let's take a look at some websites because a mobile-friendly website does not come for free at all. So if you've been testing things out and like checking to see if it looks good on a mobile screen, it probably doesn't because there are some special things you need to do. So let's take a look at some websites that are not mobile friendly at all. So this is something I used before. It's the UCEAP website. It looks like quite old. It's optimized for use with Internet Explorer 8. So if I look at it on a small screen, so either on a desktop screen that is like on the side or mobile. Oh yeah, so the way to, this is Chrome Developer Tools. So the way to open this is right-clicking and then clicking Inspect. There's also a shortcut Command Option I. So Inspect here, and then this gives me a lot of tools that I can like look at the website with. So one thing it does automatically is like it looks like a smaller screen because this takes up a lot of space. But another thing that's pretty cool is this toggle device toolbar button right here in the upper left. So if I click that, I can actually see how this website looks like on an iPhone. So, and it does not look too hot. Yeah, You really got to zoom in there, and like these inputs are too small for my fingers. You can also click this drop down up here to change the device. So let's say I want to see how it looks like on a Moto G4, which is a phone that I had for a very long time, very trusty. But it still looks terrible. It's not designed for mobile at all. Yeah, just to reiterate, or also to make this easier to see, this blue button up here is what allows you to see the website on mobile, and then this drop down will let you change what device. Let's take a look at another website. So this one is another old website that was not designed for mobile at all. So if I look at it on an iPad, and an iPad actually looks pretty reasonable. But if I look at it on an iPhone, like the text is way too small. Like the buttons or the links are really difficult to click because there's no space between them. So yeah, it's very easy to make a website that's not mobile friendly. But let's take a look at one that does look nice. So we have our, I'm going to change back to the full website. So this is how it looks like on desktop. Quite beautiful. Wow. Very, very smooth. And then if I look at it on mobile, you'll see like this changed, and then this cover image also changed. And the text doesn't extend past the screen. And the buttons are like big enough to click still. So it looks pretty nice. And oh yeah, and then these changed to be a layout where it's like stacked on top of each other instead, these blog posts. Cool. So that's the background on why we need responsive design and what it means. So now let's like find some techniques on how to do this. Right now I'm going to be writing a little bit of code. You're not expected to follow along, but the code is all found at this link. Let me just pull it up. So here, there's the demo starter code, which is what I'm going to start with, and then the demo finish code, which will show a responsive design afterwards. So I already have this downloaded on my computer, so I'm going to open that up in VS Code. Again, you're not expected to follow along. And I'm going to take a look at it. Oh, whoops. Okay. I'm going to take a look at it in Chrome. So I'm going to open index.html by showing it in Finder. There's probably a faster way to do this, but I'm going to show it in Finder and then double click it. So this is our starter website. It's pretty simple. We have like a heading here. Let me just inspect to go over what it has. We have this big div, that's the content, that's everything outlined in red. Inside there is H1, there's one imposter among us. And then we have a cover image, and then a row of text boxes, and then we have a row of characters. Yeah, so yeah, if we look at it in a small screen, it does not look great because you see like this text is super big. This image goes off the screen. You can't even read the text on the side here. And then these bottom images are also cut off, which is not good. So we're gonna change this website so that it looks a lot better on mobile. So the first thing I'm gonna do is try to avoid having this cover image extend off the side of the screen. So one helpful CSS property to do this is max width. So in my styles over here, so notice that this image has a class of cover. So my styles here, I'm gonna go to this this CSS rule. And currently the width is 600 pixels. But if I want to say, like, I never want my image to be more than 100% of its parent container. So whenever you see percentages in CSS, it means percentage of the parent container, or not container, parent div. This is what this rule means, max width 100%. And in this case, the parent of this image is this big div class content, and I put a red border on it so you can see. So when I put max width 100% here, it's gonna make sure that this image will never get bigger than this box, this red box. So I'm gonna refresh. Yeah, and we'll see that now, even if I make the screen smaller, this image will never extend past the red box, past 100% of the red box. But if it's bigger than 600 pixels, then it can take up 600 pixels because the width is 600. How is the red box able to adjust to the side of the screen? So the red box, it's just the first div inside the body. So it's like the biggest div. And I put a red box on it with CSS. Like here I have a border. And then the way that it's able to stay within the red box is because I put a style here, max width, or a style on the image, max width 100%. And that means that it can never be bigger than 100% of its parent, which is the red box. And I know it's the parent because, or I know the red box is a parent because I have this div, and then inside the div is the image tag. Yes, so yeah, the red box is 600 pixels because I said it would be 600 pixels. I could change it to something else. I could change it to 500, and it'll, this one is like pretty arbitrary. It was just like, oh, I want it to be 600 pixels wide. But yeah, so this is from the starter code is why it's 600 pixels. But I could change it to anything. Okay, cool. And there's more image things you could do to make it mobile friendly. Like maybe you don't even want to have this image. You want to have a different, like, skinnier image. Like that's also possible with HTML. And maybe we could talk about that another time. Like continuing with max width though, these bottom containers, I also want to change to have max width 100%. So then they don't extend off to the side. So I'm gonna do that. So notice in my HTML, I have this class text container already, and this class character container that is this orange box and green box. So I don't want them to extend past the sides. So I'm gonna change this to be max width 100%. And max width 100%. So if I refresh, so now they stay within the sides, which is nice. cool. So now I want to do like some more more controlled things. I want to like really change the styles when I hit a certain screen size, instead of just saying like the width can only be so big. So let's say I want to change the size of the text from right now it is 64 pixels. Maybe I want to change it to be smaller when I hit a certain point. Because right now it takes up like half the screen, which doesn't really look that nice. So to do this, I can use something called a media query. So I have some slides about that. So what a media query looks like, it's like this. You write it in your CSS file, and you use it to check what type of media or device is being used, and you can apply different styles depending on the answer. So let's break it down. So it starts with this syntax that says @media. And that just marks the start of your media role. Next, this is kind of optional. Right now I'm saying this is a media role that applies to screens. You could also, the other options are print, speech, or all. So this is saying apply these styles when I'm looking at a screen. And then next, I have this condition that says, if the screen is at most 600 pixels wide, then you can apply these styles inside. Instead of max width, you can also put min width. So if I had min width 600 pixels, that would mean that you would apply these styles only after the screen is bigger than 600 pixels. You can also check for things like resolution. You can look up the media query syntax for all the options. And you can also chain them together with and. So if you want to do and max width something and min width something, that's also possible. And then these are the styles that replace the original styles when these conditions up here are listed are met. Something to note about this is that, let's say your H1 has a font family rule applied to it. That's not going to change if you have this media query. So the only things that change are the ones that are listed here. So if we have like a font, if your H1 already has a font size, that font size will be overridden by this font size. But whatever the H1 already has, we just keep those. Yeah, and so each point where the styles change is called a breakpoint. And we can have as many of these as we want. So let's say we want a breakpoint at 600 pixels and at 800 pixels, maybe for like a phone view versus like an iPad view. You can have as many of these as you want, but usually you only have one or two. Otherwise, it gets kind of weird. Okay, yeah, so that's it for media queries. Let's put it into practice. So let's first do the font size change. So instead of 64 pixels, I want my H1 to look like, let's say, 42 pixels instead. So I want it to look like this, but only on a small screen. So to do this, in my styles.css, the bottom, I'm going to create a new media query. So it starts with @media, screen, 100 pixels, and then I'm going to change the H1 style to be font size 42 pixels. So the other font rules are not going to change. Only the font size will change when I hit less than 600 pixels. So I'm going to refresh and see if that worked. Yeah, so we have the big text here, And then if I inspect, it becomes a small text. Yeah, so notice in this corner here, it tells me how many pixels wide the screen is. So we're at 676 here. And then once we hit 600, then the text immediately becomes smaller. Cool. So another thing I don't really like about this is like, I feel like these columns are kind of squished when we have a smaller screen. So I want to change it instead of 3 columns when I have a small screen. I want it just to be like stacked on top of each other. Like this. So the property that I can change to get that stacked on top of each other look is the display property. So if I change it to display block, which is actually the default, then it will stack on top of each other like this. So similarly, in the media role, I'm going to change the style of the text container. So what gives it the row look is when it's display flex. As we learned in two weeks ago, display flex by default will have a flex direction of row. So then my text boxes will be in a row. But if I change it back to display block, which is the default, then it will look like this. Yeah, so now I see that when I have a small screen, we have these that's just stacked on top of each other. And then when I have a bigger screen, it's in a 3-column like this. So lastly, I don't really like how at the bottom here, like I can get to like 3 and then 1. Like I don't really like that. Like I would prefer to change my 4-column layout into a 2-column layout. So I'm gonna use Flexbox for that. Let's take a look at what the existing styles on this character is. So we have a character container, and this is display flex. And each character has a flex property of 25%, which means that its initial size is 25% of the parent. Yeah, this flex property is like, there's a lot of things you can do with it actually. But right now I'm just using it as initial size is 25% of the parent container, which is this green box. So instead of 25%, I want to change it to 50%. So it's a 2-column layout when it's a smaller screen. So this is what I want it to look like. So it's 2 columns, but I only want it to happen when I have a small screen. So I'm going to add it to my media query. Or actually not character container. So this is a property that applies to the flex item. So a child inside the container flex, which says, it can say a lot of things, but right now we're using it as the initial width of the flex item. So instead of 25%, I'm going to have 50%. Hopefully that works. And yeah, so now when I have a smaller screen, it changes to a 2-column layout. And something cool on Chrome is that you can see which rule is being applied. So you can see that here, when I'm less than 600 pixels, this flex 25% is crossed out because it's being overridden by this flex 50%. Okay, so one more thing is that if I actually try to view this on mobile, so I'm going to click this button that changes the device here, like all of the things that I just changed like does not show up at all, which is this seems like, why is this not working? Like I did all this work, like, yeah, I don't understand. So you actually need like one more thing in order to show your media queries on phones. And it's like this one tag, meta tag, that you need to add to your HTML file. And this says that the viewport width is a device width and the initial scale is 1. And you might be thinking like, why do I have to set this? Why isn't this just the default? And the reason is because like in the olden days, like most websites were not mobile friendly. So it was considered like a reasonable alternative to like look at the desktop screen, but just zoom in. But now we like times have changed and it's like more likely that you'll have a mobile friendly design than need to like zoom into your desktop. Yeah, so phones by default will set the viewport width to be 960 pixels as if it were a desktop screen, even though it's not. And then it'll also zoom out so that you can like see the whole thing, even though it doesn't really make sense once we have mobile friendly designs. So this is to let your phones know that, hey, we have a mobile friendly design, so just like set the width to what it actually is and set the initial scale to be just 1. So I'm going to add that to my index.html. And this goes in the head. So the head, remember, is for any HTML that isn't really shown in the content of the page. And I'm going to refresh. And once I do this, then I can see the changes that I made with the different styles. Cool. And then one more thing about responsive designs, like other things you might want to consider. If you have any hover interactions on your page, maybe like there's some information that only appears on hover, you might want to consider having an alternative way to show that information. Because on a phone, you cannot hover. You want to make sure that you can tap on your buttons. Small fingers are not really a thing. So make sure your buttons are big enough to tap buttons or are big enough to tap. Usually a mobile friendly design will have a more simple layout. So if there's less space, it can be overwhelming to have all of the same features as on desktop. So for your mobile design, consider simplifying it, removing any unnecessary elements. And the last like really big category, like we could probably have an entire workshop on how to make your websites work across browsers. But just check that like your website is working on Firefox as well as Chrome as well as Safari, because the web is the Wild West, and these different browsers actually behave in like very slightly different ways, and like they support very slightly different features. All right, so next we have a poll since we're done with this section. Also, does anyone have any questions? All right, I have launched the poll, and then we'll also use this time to take a break. So we have a break point. We need to apply a new style, which is come back at, let's say, 6, oops, 6:45.
Can we get some lo-fi?
Right, I will get on that. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll. Let's share results. So we can, wait, let me end that little file too. Oops. So wait, I don't think you can see the poll if I see the poll.
You're sharing the poll, so like we can all see it.
Okay. Yeah, so on the poll, the first question, when will styles in this media query be applied? Almost everyone got this correct. So if it says min width 600 pixels, it means that when the screen is bigger than 600 pixels, then you can apply these styles. So the first answer, when the screen is wider than 600 pixels, is correct. So next we have what is the media query, or sorry, what is the meta tag that you need to add? So the third answer is correct. Like the first one is missing with device width. So if you don't say that, then it'll think that your device width is 960 pixels. The next one says the initial scale should be 2, which means it'll be too zoomed in, which is not good. So the third answer, where the initial scale is 1, is correct. And the last one is incorrect because it doesn't have name equals viewport. And lastly, if you wanted to change from a row display to like a stack display, so in this example, we have the text boxes stacked on top of each other. We want to use display block. And the other, so inline, we'll put them in a line as if it were in a row. Inline block, I think it's like in a row, but then within it, it could be a block. I actually need to look that one up. If someone wants to answer in the chat, that'd be helpful. And yeah, stack is not correct. We're gonna take a slightly longer break because I need to set up the next poll. Let us continue. So the second half of this workshop is going to be focused on accessibility. So accessibility means that you want your website to be able to be used by those with disabilities, including those who are colorblind, those who use a screen reader, have poor vision, have susceptibility to seizures, and many other things that could happen. Yeah, this is an extremely important part of the web because like it's just a fundamental principle of the web. Like even Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, says so. So in the upcoming section, we're just going to learn about some common problems that might come up if you have a disability and you're using the World Wide Web. So one thing you want to make sure you have on your website is enough color contrast. This is to help users with poor vision. So according to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, they have a lot of different guidelines, but one of them is on color contrast. You want to make sure that the text compared to the background is different enough. And you can use this website, Accessible Colors, to determine if your text color, so you just put in a hex text color and you put in a hex background color and it'll tell you if it passes or fails the standard. So these are standards from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and AA means acceptable and AAA is good. So yeah, in this case, it also gives you some suggestions to pass each standard. So here you can also change it. So for a AAA standard, you can change its text color to this. So I have a demo that shows this. Let me pull it up on VS Code. So this is in the GitHub under accessibility demo. So here I have 3 text paragraphs. And then let me just show you what the colors are. This is here at the bottom. So we have this gray and another gray and a darker gray. It's actually pretty subtle, like the differences. Like, let me open this in Chrome actually. Yeah, and again, or actually I'm not going to be writing any code. I'm just going to be showing it. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. It's pretty subtle, the difference. So it's just best to like plug it into the tool to see if it passes the standard. It decides what the contrast ratio between the 2 colors are, and then if it matches a certain number, then it will pass the standard. So this is important for those with poor vision, as well as those with color blindness. So we're going to talk about, oops. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this next. Oh yeah, so some fun facts about color blindness, since that's the next section, is that 1 in 12 males have red-green color blindness, and 1 in 200 females. So it's pretty, that's like millions and millions of people that have color blindness. And Facebook is blue, which is easiest to see for red-green color blindness, or for people with red-green color blindness, because Mark Zuckerberg actually has that. So that's why Facebook is blue. So yeah, on color blindness, let's say we're looking at the wire task in Among Us. If you haven't played Among Us, it's just a task where you have to match one end of the wire with another wire. And if you're red-green colorblind, it can be pretty difficult to distinguish which wires are actually supposed to be matching. And it gets even worse if you can't see color at all. This is a pretty rare condition though. So, but it just becomes unusable. So, you know, this is a Among Us tragedy. So the developers over at Inner Sloth, they had to call an emergency meeting. They can't let this continue. So if you notice, if you've opened Among Us recently, the wire game now has these icons to show which 2 wires should be attached to each other. So you have this little triangle, an X, O, star. So that's great. Yeah, so some other examples, besides from Among Us, but other examples among us include Spotify. So on Spotify, the shuffle icon, if you tap it, it comes with this little dot now. So if you can't tell the difference between a unselected shuffle icon and a selected shuffle icon, you can just tell from the dot, which is pretty neat. In a lot of forms, like it can be really difficult to see where the errors are if you only have like an outline in red. So it's good to have this icon in order to indicate where there's an invalid input, say for your email, like some fake email or invalid email. Got to have this like triangle thing. And then here's an example for a color picker. So when you have a color picker like this, you don't want to rely on just the color. You want to label your colors and maybe even like have a different texture or something in order to, like, maybe you're trying to order like some red glasses for your friend, but then if your color picker only has colors without being labeled, then that's not going to be very useful for you. So yeah, the moral of the story is that you should not rely on color alone. So here's some cool tools that we can use to simulate color blindness. So I already downloaded this. This is the No Coffee Chrome extension. There's a lot of different Chrome extensions like this. This is like one of the first results, so that's why I picked it. And let me just turn it on. So once you download the extension, then you get this icon here. You click it, and then you can pick, there's some other ones here, but for color deficiency, you can pick one of these. I had to look up what these are. So protanopia is you can't see red light, deuteranopia, you can't see green light, and tritanopia, you cannot see blue light. So the most common is deuteranopia. So if I click that, then I can see on my screen, like I'm viewing the presentation as if I had deuteranopia. So that's pretty cool. So you can use this to see your website. I need to refresh. Okay, I think I need to open a new tab. Or like any website. Let's just go on Google. And we'll see how it looks like so. So if you want to test something to make sure it looks reasonable, like that's one way you can do it. Another cool, whoops. Okay, let me just close this. Okay, go away. Another cool tool.
Group
Oh,
slides home
no.
blank.
Okay. Is everything okay now? Let me turn this off. Okay, I just reset it. Yeah, I downloaded a lot of extensions. There's a lot of cool stuff. So another cool tool is called Sim Daltonism. It's only for Mac, but I put like a Windows-friendly alternative here. And this can do this for like any application, not just a web browser. So let me just open it. One thing I wanted to show is like how it looks like on Discord. I thought this was pretty cool. So if you look at like one pretty common like pitfall when it comes to colorblind friendly design is like when showing someone is active versus inactive, because like red and green are usually the colors used for that, but it's really hard to tell the difference between them for red-green colorblind users. So on Discord, you can see that the red icon for do not disturb has a line in the middle to indicate like that means do not disturb. And then the green one doesn't have a line. And then they also have the little moon thing. So yeah, that's something that Discord is doing. But I don't know, maybe not all applications have this. Like it's pretty common that you just see green and red without the extra icon. So that's pretty cool. Okay. All right, so next I'm gonna play this video that's a screen reader demo. So this is trying to get a sense of like what is a screen reader. So I'm just gonna play it. Let me know if you can't hear.
This is Mark Sutton from the University of California, San Francisco's IT Web Services Department. Here today with a brief tour of screen reading technology.
Might want to turn it up a little.
I'm a
Okay.
person who has been using screen readers,
Oops, now it's muted.
scanning equipment, other adaptive technologies since my childhood. What a screen reader does is, for example, I'm going to start to read this page.
Navigation volume. Link. University of California, San Francisco. Link. About UCSF. Link. Search UCSF.
And what I will now do is slow down the speech rate.
Rating percent. 75%,
Is it
70%, 65%, 60%,
can you hear now?
55%, 50%, 45%, 40%. Link. UCSF Medical Center.
So as I was about to say, a screen reader converts what's on a computer screen into information that can be displayed through synthetic speech or Braille output. And it does that by allowing you to use a computer instead of a mouse, a computer keyboard instead of a mouse. You can also use a Braille display as an input device.
End of navigation.
And what it does is it cleverly determines what's on the screen and present you that information
are
in a way
currently
that would allow for efficient navigation of these pages. So for example, I could just keep reading
Banner 3 items. Visited, link, image, home.
line by line, and we could be here all day. Or I could jump to the first heading on the page.
Heading level 2. Search for heading level 2. You are here. Heading level 1. Make videos accessible.
So as I'm moving down through the page, I can look for the category that interests me. And I'm just using
You are
commands built
currently on
into the
heading
screen
level-
reader. So that's all a pretty simple description of what a screen reader is all about. Now I'm going to go over and show a few examples of how that can fall apart. So I have a couple graphics on this page.
Mark Sutton hands on a MacBook Pro image.
So the first one is well described and uses an alt tag
You are currently on it.
to describe what that graphic is all about. Now we go to the next graphic,
Reader 042116.jpg.
much less useful. So it's important to use those elements. It's also true for tables. So I'm going to move to a table.
FDA approved medications. Table 3 columns, 5 rows. FDA approved medications.
So the table is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm going to move into the table.
Medicine. Approved. Column 2 of 3.
And then if I go down into the
Row,
table,
Medicine. Tolbutamide.
and as I
Column
move
1 of 3.
across,
Approved. 1975. Column 2 of 3.
we're getting the labels for the column headers and row headers. So it's important when programming tables, forms, and other elements on the web pages to use the proper HTML codes. I'll go to the
Table 3 columns.
second table on the page,
Medicine. Row 2 of 5 tolbutamide.
and as I'm in the
Tolbutamide.
table, I move across it.
Row. November 1995.
I get a date, but I don't know what that date is associated with. So it's important, as I was saying, to include proper coding tags for all these elements. These are just a few highlights of a screen reader's capabilities and some of the ways in which the experience can fall short for a blind user. The life of students, faculty, staff, and visitors is largely conducted on the internet nowadays. Screen reading technologies can make many of these interactions work more smoothly. When developers pay attention to certain coding standards, blind persons are able to participate in digital communication, being able to do such things as understand calendars and schedules, enroll in or teach classes, conduct research, and many more essential activities that are conducted electronically. If developers of web pages and applications fail to take into account these design considerations, many people will be left out, unable to use these tools of daily life that are now taken for granted by most of us. The university provides a gateway to many key aspects of social participation. It's imperative that access to university offerings is not jeopardized. For more information, go to digitalaccess.ucsf.edu. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that video is from UCSF. Let me make it a small screen. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I hope that gave a better sense of what a screen reader does. Yeah, if you heard the voice in the beginning, it's because I downloaded a screen reader extension to like try it out. And hopefully it'll work later. Yeah, so one thing from the video that was talked about is image alt text. So whenever you have an image, you can also specify an attribute called alt. And this is like a sentence that describes what the image is. So if you can't see the image, you don't lose out on anything. So some guidelines for image alt text. Want to be specific and succinct, about 125 characters. You want to describe information and not aesthetics. So for example, if you see a Twitter logo, you're not going to describe it as like a blue bird. That's not really as useful as saying that it is a Twitter logo. You want to use normal punctuation because when the screen reader reads the sentence out, it just makes it easier to know like how it's supposed to sound. You don't want to include copyright information or photo credits, not very useful. And you don't need to start with a photo of or an image of. So here's an example. Here's a it's a picture of a plate of food, but if you gave that as alt text, it's not detailed enough. So a good alt text could be plate of battered fish and chips, a popular British dish, with a pint of beer on the side. How fancy. And then you kind of get that fanciness feeling. So yeah, let's take a look at some example alt text. And like where it sometimes falls short. So I can look at the HTML on this page using inspect element again, Chrome DevTools. So right now I'm looking up a how to play Among Us beginner's guide tutorial, which is much needed for me. I'm pretty bad Among Us. I'm gonna use this icon to select the image, and let's see what the alt text is. And the alt text, all it is image credit dexerto. So yeah, so if someone was using a screen reader, they would have no idea what this image was, and it's quite cute. So does anyone have any ideas of like better alt text to use for this image in the context that this is a Among Us beginner's guide and tutorial? Just drop it in the chat if you have any ideas. Yeah, I like that. You can describe it as fan art containing the Among Us characters on a couch in space playing on their devices, something like that. Colorful jelly beans. I'm not, I guess that could be. Maybe you can say the Among Us characters are colorful jelly bean shaped. So we have purple, pink, orange, black, brown, white, yellow, green, blue, red characters on their electronic devices on a couch in space. That might be a little bit too wordy. We have Among Us characters playing Among Us on different devices. Inception music plays. That's likely true. Cute Among Us characters play Among Us on a couch. I like that. 9 small spacemen typing on laptops on a couch in space. And Among Us crew members not social distancing 2020 colorized. Tragic. Maybe they're from the same household. Okay, thanks everyone for trying to write one. Here's an example that's better. So, these tips come from this article, so I would hope that this article has images that have good alt text. So here's an example dog. And then if I inspect and see what the alt text says, we have my golden retriever dog, Scully, posing for a photo in my living room. How cute, how successful. So yeah, that's an example of a good alt text. What would be an example of some bad alt text? You can drop that in the chat for this dog. Doge, cute, animal, hairy beast, gromp, woof. Yes, those do not really describe what this image is. Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna, okay, I'll see if this works. I'm gonna do a demo on these images. So I have 2 images here, and then an image that like is not loading, but still has alt text. So this is what it looks like. So this first image, let me just show the code for that. Wait, where is the VS Code? Yeah, let me show the code for this. So this first image has alt text as correct as it should. And it says oh wait, no, this is not right. This is not the right demo. This one. Okay, so yeah, so the first image, it has alt text, very good. It says, yeah, this is the one that I wrote. And then the second image is like really bad because it doesn't even say image. All it says, it's just a div. It's an imposter image. And then the reason it looks the same is because I put a background image with the URL of the same image. So this is really bad because a screen reader will not be able to see this image. It just thinks it's a background image. It's not important, just for decoration. So if you have an image that has content, never use a background image. And then lastly, I have one more image where I put, this is to simulate as if like your screen is loading super slowly, so it's not able to load any images. I simulated by just putting a bad URL or a bad source image. And then I also put this alt text. So this alt text will show up if the image is not able to load. So, okay, let me see if it will do the thing.
Text with bad contrast, text
Okay,
with
yeah.
AA standard contrast, text with AAA standard contrast. Among Us crewmates and mini crewmates sit in front of a whiteboard that states, mini crewmates should be able to do mini tasks. This is example alt text. It would show up if the
Okay.
image was not able to load.
Okay.
Chrome Vox is now inactive.
Yeah, so if you could hear that, you could, you'll see, you'll have heard like the first image, it has the alt text, but then it just skips over the second image and goes into this one. This example alt text would show up if the image was not able to load. So that's how that works. Yeah, so do not use background image if you have image that is meaningful. But you can use it if it's just for decoration. Yeah, so another thing to keep in mind are these input boxes. So you always want to make sure you label your input boxes, and I'll show what it should look like. So here we have an input, which gives me this like input box. It'll show up even if I don't have this label. It'll just be the input box. But what's good to have is like both having this label as well as saying what the label is for. So you want this for to match the ID of the input. And then your screen reader will know like when you navigate to this box, it'll say crewmate name. So you know what to type in for the input. So what would be bad is, so this is the code that I have here. What would be bad is if you don't have any labels. So instead of a label, it kind of looks the same if I just put a paragraph tag. Like if you weren't considering screen readers, you would just think like, oh, it looks the same. Like, why don't I just put a paragraph tag here? But it is good for a screen reader to know what the label is referring to, which input the label is referring to. So I'm going to run the screen reader again. This is Chrome Vox. It's from Google Chrome.
Text with bad contrast, text, Among Us crewmates and mini crewmates. This is example alt text that would show up. Crewmate name, edit text. Mini crew, edit text. Edit text.
Yeah, so if you notice here, like when I just go onto this input, it just says edit text versus the other one.
Crewmate name, edit text.
It says crewmate name, edit text, so you know what what it's asking for.
Chrome Vox is now inactive.
Cool. Okay, so one more consideration to have is making sure you have semantic HTML. Which, what does this mean? It just means that the tags are used as they were designed to be used. So like before, where there's the image tag, like you could put a background image as an image and it would look the same to most users, but that is not how it's designed to be used. Similarly, like instead of an H1 tag for a heading, you could just use a normal div, or you could use a P tag. You could use any tag that allows text, but this is this is not good for screen readers who rely on these indications to be able to provide the correct information to the user. So yeah, so for example, I have these two headings here, but one is a heading and one is just a div. So there's one imposter. This one's the imposter. So I'm going to demo that on the screen reader again. So what I have here, so in my first section, I am using H1s, H2s, and the unordered list as expected. But in the second section, I'm just using a div, and then I'm applying the style of heading 1 and heading 2. So if I look in the styles, the reason it looks the same is that for H1, H2, I put these font sizes, and then for heading 1, heading 2, I put these font sizes. So that's why they look the same. They look, if I'm just looking at them, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. However, if I'm using a screen reader, let me just turn it on.
Text with bad contrast, text with it. Edit, tag yourself. Heading 1, pink. Heading 2, pink Among Us character. List with 3 items. Shy, list item. Stays in groups because they're too scared to do task alone. Has no list with 3 items. Axus, got, forget, tag yourself. Pink. Tag yourself.
Yeah, so notice when I get to this section, like it doesn't say heading 1 anymore. So it might be confusing like what this text is supposed to say, or
Pink.
Like what the hierarchy of the information is. Versus over here, like
purple. Heading 2.
It tells you like, oh, this is a heading 2. So I know like the next information is related to this heading 2. Cool. Let me turn that off.
Chromevox is now inactive.
Yeah, so the screen reader I was using just right there is called Chromevox, and it works for Google Chrome or Chrome OS. Yeah, you can just search this up, Chromevox extension. It's just in the Chrome extension store if you want to try it out. It's a little finicky though. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to learn with how to use a screen reader. And then like built into Mac OS is VoiceOver, and built into Windows 10 is Narrator. So those are some screen readers you can maybe test out. There's a tool called Wave that can also point out some like issues with accessibility. So let me demo that. I installed the extension already, and it does this thing. And then I can show you like where there might be errors. So for example, or I can go to the details tab, and then here, like it tells me like this is very low contrast. So if you put this on, if you run this on any website, you might be able to see some issues that you have with accessibility. And then like see here, like this form does not have a label, which is not good. It doesn't catch everything though. Like for example, it doesn't know that these were supposed to be headings. And similarly, it doesn't know that this image is not actually a background image. There's no way for this to be able to tell, but it's like a very good starting point for some common mistakes to make with accessibility. Yeah, there's also some alerts that like tell you things that maybe you want to consider. And then it also tells you like things that are good that you have. Like it's good that you put alternative text. It's good that you label your form. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And now we have a poll. So let me put, oh yeah, does anyone have any questions, by the way? Alrighty, I just launched the poll. And then the first question is related to this slide. I'll put on the music too. Oops. All right, let's go over the poll answers. So, and the poll. Share results. So yeah, most of you got the first one. Yeah, I think alt text is like, it's mostly knowing that you should have it, like it's important to have, and then everything will follow from that. For the second one, so the way to do this one is going to accessiblecolors.com. Just plug in all of the numbers. So let's plug in the 1E2749 with the background color of E4. If I want it, so I can change from AA to AA compliance and then see that, yes, this is compliant versus another one. Let's do another one. I'll just copy it over. Okay, I cannot copy it over. Let's type it in. Let's do 7FB069. And yeah, so then this says that it fails AAA or AAA compliance for color contrast. Yeah, so that's how to do the poll. Alrighty, so my last slide is just a few different resources you can use to learn more about accessibility. So this is, the first one's like a super beautiful website, and it has like so many resources. Like making a website accessible is like, it goes pretty deep. Here's like a checklist to consider a few different things about accessibility. Like there's a lot of things I didn't talk about, like how to make making sure that you have captions for videos, making sure you have like consistency, don't have too long text. If there's any blinking content, make sure it's possible to turn it off. Yeah, so this breaks it down really nicely. And then these are the standards from W3, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and these are some checks, and it also shows you how to perform the check as well. It is cool. All right, so yeah, thank you all so much for coming. Again, we have our feedback form that you can fill out to enter in a raffle for an Amazon gift card, and then we will be having a session next week on Intro to React. So thank you all so much.